What's up, guys? We are back with another NECA Toys TMNT review, taking a look at probably one of the most anticipated figures of the year when it comes to Turtles. And I say that knowing full well that we have just had an onslaught of Turtles lately from NECA, from every type of line, and then of course Super 7 stuff. So it is a Turtles onslaught right now, you know, which is a good thing, but of course it's also an overwhelming thing. But we're finally stepping into Secret of the Ooze. So we had the pre-order for Tokka and Rezar, but Super Shredder is out now, and this is the figure that the kid in me is very, very excited for, because while the 1990 movie is my favorite as an adult, Secret of the Ooze was always far and away my favorite as a kid because, well, more mutants, Super Shredder, Vanilla Ice, the whole deal, really. There was just so much for me as a kid to really latch onto, and I'm really excited to finally get this guy in figure form from NECA because, I mean, it's going to go really well with our movie Turtles. So we've got him here in an Ultimate style box. It's oversized because, of course, he's bigger. One of the interesting things about this packaging, though, is that instead of putting a shot of the figure or even the character on the box, at least on the front, we got the poster for Secret of the Ooze. So, well, this is one of the posters anyway. We don't actually see Super Shredder on the front. His name is only down there at the bottom underneath the canister of ooze. We do have product shots for him on the side. You've got one on each side, and then you've got more product shots of him on the back along with the Secret of the Ooze kind of logo there. So you've got a bunch of shots here showcasing what he looks like, and then of course some of his accessories. But since this is an Ultimate box, you know, you can pop it open, and there he is in the inner window right there. So you've got him there in all of his glory. It is a collector-friendly box, but he's actually held in place by ties, so he doesn't actually go back in without being tied into place. He's kind of flopping around in there. And then you've got a big shot of him in all of his enormous glory on the inner flap. So cool box as usual. Still kind of an interesting thing when it comes to the front here because he's not on it. But let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look. And here he is out of the package, our Super Shredder. And just like with the movie Turtles from NECA, I think I'm going to be able to say with relative certainty that this is the figure that I have always wanted for this character. There is a lot to like about this one, just in pretty much every respect. There are a few little things here and there that, you know, I could maybe gripe about, but this guy's probably going to shake up my top 10 list at least a little bit because I am loving everything about it. It hits me from a nostalgia level, from an aesthetic level. He does move pretty well. And, I mean, it's Super Shredder, so you kind of get me just based on the character. So let's see what he can do, see how he moves around. There are a few things to note when it comes to articulation on this guy, because he moves about what you would expect for a NECA figure, but he does have a little oddity here and there in terms of where his joints are, if that's going to make any sense. It's not necessarily a negative, it's just more of a, that's kind of different. So to start with, at the head, you've got a independently articulated neck and head, but the head honestly doesn't really do a whole lot. It really just sort of bobbles around on top of the neck because it's so close to his rather beefy and girthy and thick neck. So you just really kind of take it as one thing, really. So the head can rotate. It doesn't really have a lot of up and down. It's mostly just a slight bobble, but he can look up pretty good with that actual neck being moved. And then he looks down really good. Of course, that's incredibly important because he is so tall compared to the Turtles. He needs to be able to look down on him. And then you've got a little bit of tilt side to side. Now, the helmet is actually a separate piece, so I've been noticing it kind of wanting to move a little bit. The helmet is glued on to whatever monstrosity is underneath there as far as the head. So maybe be careful with it. I don't think it's going to come off or anything, but I've seen some folks mention that they've been able to take it off. So watch what you're doing, I suppose. The arms go out at the shoulders. They go all the way. Nothing really getting in the way there. They, of course, aren't going to go too far as spinning, but you can get them fully extended forward and backward. He does not have a butterfly joint of any kind. He does also not have a bicep swivel. What he has is a upper elbow swivel, which is pretty normal for NECA. That's not too crazy. And then you've got a hinge there. But he's also got, I don't know if it's truly a double jointed elbow because this joint is basically at the top of the forearm. It's just odd because of how big he is. It makes it look kind of weird, but when you do both of them, I mean, he's got really, really good range. It just sort of looks odd. So you've got a joint that's here that is rotating and hinging, and then you've also got a joint here that's rotating and hinging, so you can rotate the forearms and hinge independent from the elbow, so to speak. I mean, it's like the very bottom of the elbow and the very top of the elbow. I've talked way too much about that at this point. You've got hinges and rotation at that wrist there. You've got a diaphragm cut, but it's really just a swivel. So you can swivel all the way around. There is a little bobble action and then not much forward and backward because he's got, such big monster, super mutated pecs. You've got your waist cut here, which is just a ball peg. So he goes backwards, forward, tilt side to side, and then he does rotate fully, but you're going to get really tight as he sort of, locks into that belt. He does kind of bobble a little bit. Maybe it's just mine, I don't know. It's not presenting any issues. I think it's just more or less that it's a ball peg and it maybe isn't the tightest thing in the world. So it can do that, like a little baby rattle, but it's not presenting any issues. It's certainly not leading him to be unstable or anything like that. Legs go out about that far. It's another barbell that we've been seeing lately, double ball peg. They don't really kick forward too far. He's got those big beefy thighs, so they really only kick so far. If you rotate them, you are going to get a little more, but you've also got to watch that ball peg. There is a twist there at the ball peg. It's not a true thigh cut, but you can twist pretty decently. And then you've got a single joint right here, which is one of their kind of pinless joints that we're really used to seeing when it comes to NECA. But then you've also got another joint right here for a true double jointed knee that actually has pins in it. So that's what I was talking about with some of these kind of odd joints. They're not problematic or non-functional. They're just kind of odd, at least a little bit. And then that top knee joint will allow rotation because he doesn't have a boot cut or any kind of rotation down at the foot. It's just at the top of the knee. You do have a rocker at the ankle, and then you've got pretty good hinges, especially backwards. That's really, really good. So he does move pretty well. I mean, there are a few areas where he might be a little limited. It's really just at the thighs, I suppose, when it comes to kicking outward and forward. And then you do have the little bobble thing going on, but again, like I said, it doesn't actually cause any issues. He stands up just fine, and he poses well. It's just something you might have to deal with when you are messing around with him. But once you've got him, he's not going anywhere. Now, if you watch any of my videos, you know a thing that I say a lot is that one of my biggest things when it comes to any figure, any toy, is the aesthetics, is the look, and just what it does for me at a visual level. I can forgive some articulation hiccups here and there, but it's all about the look most of the times because I want to look at the thing. I want it to look cool on my shelf. I want it to be a good representation of whatever it's supposed to be. And this guy kind of threw me for a loop at first because you don't really get the greatest of look at Super Shredder in the movie. It's incredibly dark. It's incredibly fast-paced. There are a lot of quick cuts, things like that. And I mean, come on, he's only in the movie for a very, very brief time. And a lot of the time it's just so frenetic that it's hard to really see what's going on. And one thing that, kind of threw me off is some of the paint shading on this guy. But he actually is supposed to look like this. I mean, I knew that there was a lot of different colors on this suit. He wasn't straight purple, but I know that some of this, when he's not cast in shadow, it might seem, well, why does he have all this kind of like cream and white color on him? That is supposed to be there. It is part of the shading on the suit. And then all of the musculature is, of course, supposed to be really, really deep black to help kind of make it look like he is, ultra dry almost. Like Super Shredder is in bodybuilding competition mode, basically. So all of his muscles are incredibly sunken in and very defined, and then of course they've got that black cast over top of them to make them pop even more so they look even deeper, and that's exactly what the suit did. So it's kind of weird at first because it's not exactly like you think he might look when it comes to the movie, but this is how he should look. So I do think that they did a really good job here, and it's just something I figure I might as well get out of the way, at least as far as I'm concerned. I have seen a few folks that aren't really too jazzed about this, like they think it looks like the cartoon line or something like that, and it's definitely not the case here. I just think it looks pretty cool. The purple on him is incredibly good too. It's very rich and deep, and of course, he's covered in paint really, so I think they did a pretty good job there. Size wise, he is very big, very imposing, and I will of course do a comparison within the movie line and then with other things as well. So you've got other aspects of the figure that of course scream Turtles too, so like the saw blade look when it comes to Shredder's blades and all of the armor. And of course, the thing with him is that he has the ooze, and yet for some reason it mutates his clothing, because why not? I never questioned it as a kid. I'm certainly I guess I'm questioning it now, but it truly doesn't matter. It made him look cooler, so that's all that really matters, I suppose. You've got the kind of gnarly looking hands. He's got like Deadpool hands here almost, where he's riddled with some sort of nonsense all over him. So he's got like, a flesh-eating bacteria covering his hands basically. And you've got, more of the blades down here on his boots, and all of the blades actually do have a little bit of paint on them. So they have like a tiger stripe effect almost. You can maybe sort of see it shimmering in the light. And you've got his boots down here, which have the wraps. It's basically just, ninja style foot wraps, basically. And then you've got his, kind of a football linebacker shoulder pads there with all the spikes on them. And they look fantastic. I really do like everything about the spikes on this figure. I think he turned out really, really well. It very much adds a little bit of heft and beefiness to him. It makes him seem a little bit more imposing, because the figure on its own is incredibly large, but if he didn't have the armor, it wouldn't be as impactful. And I think NECA did a really good job of translating those into figure form. They aren't sharp or anything. They aren't pointy. They're rubbery, but they very much hold their shape, and they don't seem like they're going to go anywhere or droop over time. They're so short, they don't have a lot of weight that's going to drag them down. And then you've got the cape back here, which of course is very reminiscent of Turtles 2. It doesn't have a wire in it, which I kind of wish it did. I didn't think it was going to, and I honestly didn't pay much attention to whether it would or not until I got it out of the box. And it's fine. I mean, it holds its shape pretty well. It drapes over him really nicely. Like, I don't have a problem with how it hangs. Because again, he doesn't really do too much crazy stuff in the movie to make it go flying all over the place or anything like that. But a wire would have made it pretty cool to have it kind of flying backwards or something like that. So I'm sure somebody's going to do something like that. I'm interested to see what happens with that. The patterning on it, though, does look really good. It's certainly not as impressive as the original movie Shredder cape, because that thing is just like a work of art. But this does look really good, and it of course is very reminiscent of that. It's just, as with everything Turtles 2, it's not quite as impressive as the stuff in Turtles 1, because they didn't have all of the same folks making everything that time. But I do think he looks really good. Size is really nice. Colors are really good. Paint is incredibly well done. Everything is crisp and clean, no bleeding or anything like that. And then of course, we got to talk about this head sculpt, because I don't know, when I think of Super Shredder, the first thing I think of is the helmet. And this thing is pretty gnarly. It's basically an upgrade to the Shredder helmet from Secret of the Ooze. It's that crazy saw blade thing with just a lot more to it. So it's really big. Of course, it comes out a lot farther. It's much taller. It's very much a huge saw blade helmet. And then you've got kind of the telltale Shredder chainmail back portion of it, and then the mask on the front. There is a face of some kind under there, and the eyes are okay on mine. I know some folks have seen them kind of going off all over the place. My left eye, your right, is kind of pointing downwards a little bit, which isn't too bad in this instance, because of course he's probably going to be looking down on the Turtles a lot in my display or whenever I do anything with him, so it's okay. You've got fully painted eyes, eyebrows, flesh under there, the whole deal. Again, like I said, the helmet is something that is a separate piece, so it can pop off. There's just not like a full head or anything under there that I'm aware of anyway. But I think the helmet on its own looks pretty awesome, really well done as far as sculpt, paint shading, all that, the whole 9 yards really. It's very imposing, it's very nasty looking, it's very quintessential Super Shredder. Now, as far as size comparisons go, we're going to stick to the Turtles line to begin with. You've got movie Raph, and we've got a movie Foot Soldier over here, and you can see that, Shredder just absolutely dwarfs these guys. Raph especially just looks so tiny next to this guy, and rightly so, because he is a humongous figure, but he should also be this big. He is an enormous character, so it works really well. And let's move him aside, and we'll get something different that's a little bit larger. So here he is with the Motu Classics He-Man. He-Man is a 7-inch figure. So you can see that Super Shredder here is, he's a little bit more than 9, especially, taking into consideration the tallest point on the helmet. But what about some actual big figures? So here he is with the Alpha Predator, and even he is smaller than our Super Shredder. And then let's do a Marvel Legends Build-A-Figure. So here he is with Apocalypse, and Apocalypse is even smaller than that. So this guy has a lot of size. He is definitely going to scale well with the Turtles from pretty much all the lines as far as NECA stuff goes. And then he's going to be a really beefy counterpart to a lot of your other larger figures. He's going to be able to go toe-to-toe with a lot of the big guys in your collection, and he's still going to dwarf a lot of things. And then, because why not, we've got to take a look at Super Shredder with the Playmates figure. And I don't have the crazy super rare variants for Super Shredder, but we've got the regular one here. And I mean, I don't know, there's not really a lot to compare to, just like usual when we do anything like this, but you get an idea of what we're talking about here as far as our original and then our movie figure. Now, of course, there are other Super Shredders, you know, like the one from the 2012 show, but I never had that figure, and he's also a far cry from these two. They don't look anything alike, but there's a lot of similarity here as far as our 30-year-old figure compared to our modern, monstrous, beefy NECA figure. Now, as far as accessories goes, this guy has a decent amount. I mean, there's honestly not a lot to give Super Shredder because he has nothing in the movie. So, you know, you could just give him nothing and be on your way. But he does have a handful of hands to start with. So you've got a pair of splayed finger, you know, action style gripping hands, not, you know, something that you would be putting in his hands. But of course, you know, you can use this to grab a turtle head or just being in a pose. You've got a set of actual gripping hands. So of course, to hold an accessory. So you just got gripping hands, standard gripping hands. He does have fists on him in the box. And then you've got a more open palm gripping hand for his left hand, which is meant for a specific accessory. That being a canister of ooze. So you've got a TGRI canister of ooze here, which looks really good. Paint on it is really crisp and clean. Sculpt is nice. That kind of neon green is really bright and vibrant and looks great against, you know, all the purple that he's got going on. So I really like this. I'm glad we got this. And then we got this guy here, which of course is meant to be used with the gripping hand. So you've got his spear, which of course he doesn't have in the movie. This is really more of like a vintage toy callback than anything else. So I really, really like this. It's bigger, well, actually not bigger than the figure itself, but basically as tall as Shredder, really. Nice silver as far as the metallic sheen on it goes, and you've got some gunmetal here, and then you've got a pointed tip at the bottom. So you can, of course, can hold this two-handed or single-handed. So he doesn't have a ton of stuff, but again, he doesn't really have any room for accessories to begin with. He was just a guy in the movie. So I'm glad they were able to give him some solid extra hands and then a few other things to just sort of fill out the box. And then I do like the callback here. So at the end of the day, Super Shredder is basically everything I wanted him to be. If I had one maybe criticism or wish that they had done slightly more, is a wire in the cape. That's about it, really. He moves really well. Even some of my little nitpicky things like around the hips and the little bobble that at least I have at the waist are not anything to really worry about. He still moves exactly like a figure should for something that is this beefy and bulky and honestly doesn't really move all that well in the movie to begin with. He just sort of lumbers around and bashes stuff, and that's exactly what this figure can represent on your shelf. He looks essentially perfect. I think they did a great job of translating this suit into figure form, even though, you know, it may look a little different in bright light than it does under a dock at night in the movie, but I think they did a great job. It's really well done. This is exactly what Super Shredder looks like. I'm glad that they included the spear. It's like that little vintage callback. And then the other accessories that they included, while not incredibly plentiful, are really good and kind of round out a figure that honestly has no accessories in the movie anyway. So they gave us everything you could really need for this guy. So yeah, I'm pretty sure this guy is going to end up on some top 10 lists this year because it's a pretty impressive figure and really, really rounds out the line so far. And I cannot wait to get Toka and Razar after having this guy in hand. So that's going to do it for this look at the NECA Toys TMNT Super Shredder. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And until next time.